Hello everybody, welcome back to Planet X News, July 7th, 2019. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, California is under the gun with very, very severe earthquake activity. Now, just on July 1st, I was talking about what was happening with our sun and the Earth's magnetic field, how it was weakening. We went over a lot of information on that day. There were several sizable earthquakes that occurred just 24 hours after that. And then the 4th of July rang in with its fireworks in California, with a magnitude 6.2 to 6.5, slightly east of Los Angeles. I believe the epicenter was approximately 150 miles east of LA. I've actually been keeping an eye on this area for quite some time, and also the Santa Barbara area. The reason being is we've seen several earthquake swarms in these areas over the past few months. Now, I know a lot of people have had a lot of different ideas on why this is happening. I've been keeping up to date with all of the information as it's been coming in. I've been doing my own research minute by minute. And I'll tell you this much. I watched all of the USGS updates and press conferences. And, you know, I have to say this, and I will be in total agreement with Dutch Since. It looks like these people don't know what the hell they're doing. I mean, I watched all of their press conferences. I watched their body language. These people literally don't look like they know what they're doing. They don't even look like they know what they're talking about. That's kind of sad when we should be able to depend on an agency like the USGS. But it is what it is, folks. We have to do our own homework. We have to do our own research. We have to investigate these matters ourselves. And there are quite a few people out there on YouTube that do know what they're talking about. I'll give a shout out to Dutch, because he does fantastic work. I've said this before, I will say it again. They should make Dutch the worldwide seismic earthquake czar of the whole entire world, because the man's work is absolutely incredible. And over the course of time, he has proven that. And the USGS hates his guts for that. If they were smart, they would offer him a high-paying job so he could support himself and his family and utilize his knowledge. But we all know how these government agencies are. All of you should definitely be watching and following BP Earthwatch, as well as Mr. MBB333, some of the top people on YouTube. My information definitely differs quite a bit from these guys. They're not going to delve into Planet X research. They're not even going to mention those words, simply because they will end up being censored and kind of blacklisted, like my YouTube channel has been since 2017. They're just not going to go down those routes. I do believe that BP and probably Mr. MB, I think they definitely know what is occurring. But I don't know. Maybe it's me just having the biggest mouth and not worried about a YouTube channel or advertising earnings from the Boob Tube. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the live chat. And speaking of the Boob Tube, let's see how many people got their notifications. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. Get this thing jamming. Okay. So, yesterday was kind of odd. I was studying some of the patterns of these earthquakes, and do I think I'm qualified to speak on the subject matter? I'm not a geologist. I'm not a seismic expert with a title. However, I've been studying seismic activity and Planet X research for more than 20 years, so I think I'm qualified to speak on the subject matter. Yesterday, about 13 minutes before this magnitude 7.1 struck this region of Ridgecrest, California, 13 minutes before the earthquake, I was actually looking at these patterns of the quakes. If you look in the lower left-hand part of your screen, you'll see a little map area of these earthquakes, and I outlined it in blue lines showing this pattern. And I think it was about 9 minutes later after I posted this on Facebook and in our Planet X News Facebook group, 13 minutes later, bingo, that 7.1 hit this area. Now, there has been extensive damage. They're really not covering it on the media like I thought they would. Last night, Fox News did get out there. They did have some people on the ground, and there were some fires that were due to ruptured gas lines, some ruptured water mains. There has been some destruction of property. And there were reports, I heard first thing this morning at about 5 a.m., that as the police were patrolling these areas, people were sleeping outside. They were literally sleeping outside, scared to be in their own homes. That's unfortunate. But ladies and gentlemen, we are living in reality, and the reality is this type of seismic activity in California is way overdue. I've been talking about it for years. Many other people on YouTube that I feel that are qualified to talk on the subject, they've been warning about this also. It is just a matter of time. The whole entire state of California is very, very unstable. Then you move up to the state of Oregon and the state of Washington and just a little north into the west coast of Canada. These areas are very unstable. Cascadia, the Juan de Fuca faults, they are way overdue for a very sudden uplift earthquake. It's going to happen. The big question is, when? So I guess, a lot of people think that, people like me and Dutch and maybe some others, we're always crying wolf. We're fear mongers. Well, over the last couple of days, I don't think we deserve those types of titles. The proof is all there. The evidence is all there. Physical evidence, destruction, fires, water lines breaking, homes being destroyed. And then here's something else. I was actually trying to contact a few people that I know that live close to this area. I do have a friend of mine that lives about 75 miles away between LA and this Ridgecrest area. Wasn't able to get a hold of him, left a few messages, but he did get back to me. And he actually went out to this area to check it out. And he was talking to a few people that had been out in the desert area. It's kind of, you know, relatively flat out there. And he was being told that very sizable fissures, cracks, had opened up in many areas. Now, I did hear a report that came from the mouths of the people at the USGS in their first press conference. There's a naval facility out there in the middle of the desert. The lady from the USGS stated that they wanted to go and check this area out at this naval facility because they had gotten word that some very large fissures or cracks had opened up on that property, but they were not able to get in there. I did see one photograph of a young lady who was standing inside of a large fissure that had opened up in this desert area. She was standing inside of it. It was up to her waist. Now, that's not really a smart thing to do, but it did make for a pretty damn good picture. I did see another photograph of a man who was on his hands and knees, and he was bent over all the way inside of a fissure that had opened up. And yeah, it looked like it could have just swallowed him up. I don't know why they're not showing this on the media, because this is very important, folks, because the depth of these earthquakes have been very, very shallow, very, very close to the surface. Now, whenever you start talking about the depths of earthquakes, yes, we always talk about how these deep earthquakes affect the land, but when it comes to the actual shaking, these shallow quakes, they do the most destruction naturally. And I would probably say 99.9% of all of these earthquakes that have hit this area have been very, very close to the surface. So therefore, you know, even minor quakes, 4.5, 5.5, they could actually do some damage depending on your structure. And that's a lot of shaking. And these people have felt it. And I've been getting reports that these folks are absolutely terrified in this area. There was a Fox report I caught midday yesterday, and it was from a congressman, and he actually lives in Los Angeles, and he felt this magnitude 6.2 all the way in LA. And he said that it was the biggest earthquake that he's felt that he could remember. And he was 150 miles away. So that just goes to show you how that energy reverberates straight through the surface, the upper surface of the earth. I was listening to some of the other reports coming in from actual reporters on the scene, and one of them said that they were sleeping in the news van, and they could feel the aftershocks. And whenever they were trying to catch a few hours of sleep, and the whole van would start to shake, and they would look up and look out of the window, and they would see cars, parked cars on the street, just moving back and forth. So this area is very volatile. They did say in the press conference from the USGS that there was a very, very small percentage of a chance that a greater earthquake would occur. I believe it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 5%. Well, no sooner than that lady spit that very low statistic out, what happens? We have a magnitude 7.1. Well, bigger problems are arising, folks. And, you know, you may not have heard anything about what I'm about to explain to you from any other people reporting on this on YouTube or even the news. But as I've been saying for quite some time, you know, the Earth's magnetic field is weakening substantially. You know, you may not think too much about that because maybe you don't know a lot about that. Our magnetic field, our magnetopause, protects the Earth from all of these heavily charged particles that come from the sun. And I did state in my last live stream, I gave you actual details telling you that on the 4th of July, we were going to be hit by a moderate solar wind, and sure enough, on the 4th of July, that magnitude 6.2, 6.5, it rang out. And that basically set things off to where we're at right now. I'm going to be showing you some additional information on what I'm talking about. And the big problem is, well, there's another round of this solar wind, these heavily charged particles coming from the sun. They're due to impact in about 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours. Normally, under normal circumstances, when the Earth's magnetic field is at full power, these heavily charged particles will bounce off, they'll be deflected, some will be absorbed, and the Earth will basically, go on like nothing happened. But whenever you have these heavily charged particles bombarding the Earth, it is literally heating up the inside of the Earth. I can put it to you like this. This is the best analogy, explanation, image that I can give you. If you take a balloon, perfectly round, spherical balloon, and say you dipped it in liquid wax and you let it dry, and you have that outer shell around that balloon. If you were able to increase the pressure inside of that balloon, make it bigger, well, naturally, you're going to start to see fractures and cracks, similar to our tectonic plates here on this planet. Whenever these heavily charged particles bombard the Earth, including cosmic rays have been on the upscale for the last several months. Whenever you have this type of situation, this is what occurs. We start to see more seismic activity. During my last live stream, I explained to all of you the positioning of the Earth, where it's at right now in its orbit around the sun, and the positioning of these Planet X objects. Now, there's one that's very large. The other two are a little smaller, but the main object, it is much, much larger than the planet Jupiter. This object is in a 28-day orbit around the sun. And during our orbit around the sun, whenever we get to the backside, as I was explaining it in my last live stream, listen closely. This is how I had to lay it out. I had to basically take the Earth's orbit and cut it in half, okay? 360 degrees all the way around the sun. So we want to cut that in half by the months, January through June. We'll call that the front side. July through December, we'll call that the back side. Where were we? We were right at June 30th whenever the earthquakes started ringing out in frequency. The Earth is now moving into this backside positioning, meaning the other 180 degrees around the sun. Due to the positioning of Planet X and the way that it has the very acute, eccentric, and elliptical orbit around the sun every 28 days, I have noted since 2016, 17, 18, and this year, went back, checked all of the data over these time frames, and it was showing me that there were massive upticks in seismic activity and volcanic activity from late June all the way through the end of November. Where are we at right now? We were in the end of June. Now we're in the beginning of July. What have we seen? Massive uptick in volcanic explosions, and now a pretty damn severe uptick in the earthquake activity. Here's the thing, folks. We're only in the beginning stages of it. We have about 5 more months of this to go, and you could already see what has been produced. A lot of people think that what I'm saying can't happen, can't be true. There's got to be some other type of explanation. But how can you say that when we have years of data that I've been able to compile over these last 3.5, almost 4 years? All of the data is pointing in this direction. Okay? So that's what I kind of meant by maybe other YouTube channels, they don't want to lose their credibility, so they'll just stick to the basics about reporting on an event, an earthquake event, or a volcanic event, or a weather event. The fact of the matter is, even our upper atmosphere is so heavily charged right now. I don't know if any of you guys follow or have joined our Planet X News Facebook group. We have over 1,000 members already. The people are fantastic. My hat's off to all of you. We're putting up some good information. Everybody's kind of acting as a team, gathering this information ASAP and getting it up there. Oh, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. You guys are fantastic. It's also a good learning experience for a lot of people in the new group. The reason why I say that is, once again, I've noticed that we have a lot of new people coming in, and they've been exposed to other forms of information, going back to Nibiru. I've had a lot of people questioning me about Gil Broussard again. I've had many conversations with Gil back in 2016 and 17, did a very long interview, live stream with him in 2017. But the fact of the matter is, he delves into all of the biblical prophecy on past events that, I'm going to be quite frank with you folks, they don't have anything to do with what is actually happening now. And the time scale, it just doesn't make any sense. You can't just go out there like David Meade and some of these other folks and just keep predicting things based on Bible prophecy, and then whenever those dates that you set, nothing comes about, well, you look pretty damn foolish, and your credibility goes out the door, and then you kind of hide out for 6 to 9 months, and then you pop your head back up and you start spewing some changed information, some changed dates, some changed reasoning. But the fact of the matter is, folks, none of these people ever show you anything. A colorful poster? That's not good enough for me. Biblical prophecy? I'm sorry. That's not good enough for me either. I deal in facts. Facts. Things that are happening right now. things that I've researched over the past 20 years. Okay, I cannot vouch for anything that these other people are telling all of you. The whole Nibiru story, we've gone over that time and time again. I think the Nibiru story was put out there as a psyop and then eventually led to discrediting a lot of people that were putting that information out. And it was easy to discredit these folks. They had trolling operations after these people. They came after me for, almost 2.5 years. I mean, I still get a few of these nutcases every now and then, but I think they finally saw that they weren't going to be able to defeat me. Maybe they have defeated others, but not me. So we're at a very, very critical point right now, and we are going to be in this position, for the rest of the year. Now, we weren't faced with a solar minimum back in 2016 and 17, and even in 2018. But this solar minimum, it's coming up. We should be into it right about now. Some scientists differ on the exact date, but I think we've been delving into this solar minimum for quite some time. The Earth's magnetic field works off of the sun's magnetic field. So if the sun is losing some energy and going to sleep for 11 years, then that means the Earth's magnetic field is going to get weaker. The sun will continue to spew its heavily charged particles and solar wind towards the Earth. There's no way to stop that. So if the Earth's magnetic field is weakening and the sun continues, just by sheer nature, to produce its solar wind, well, that means more of these heavily charged particles are going to break through. They penetrate through everything, even your body, and they move straight into the mantle and then subsequently all the way to the core. There are some very, very weak zones out there in California. I believe that this area of this ridge crest, I believe that this is a very volatile and very weak area. All too many times people worry about San Diego and Los Angeles and San Francisco. Okay, well, we've had some big quakes in these areas over the years, but it's been a long, long time since a magnitude 6.5 and above has struck anywhere in the state of California. So, it's just a matter of time. Now, it is said, and I think Dutch touched on this also, there are some very, very old volcanoes in and around this area where this seismic activity is brewing. Is it a possibility that magma is being heated and expanding way down deep in the ground? That amount of pressure underneath a section of land or faults, that weakening can produce sizable earthquakes. Plain and simple. That may be what is occurring here. It's very, very hard to say. But we're going to be actually moving into more activity over the next couple of days. Now, I'm going to show you what's been happening on the sun. I created a video earlier this morning detailing some information from the Solar Dynamics Observatory, the spacecraft that monitors the sun in extreme ultraviolet light. I'm going to pull that up, and I've developed a way that I can show you what is happening inside of these coronal holes. Now, we did have a pretty sizable coronal hole that was facing the Earth a few days ago. This solar wind takes a couple of days to actually make its way to the Earth. It's been moving very, very slowly over the last 6 months. We haven't seen real heavy bursts in high speeds like we normally do. So that's kind of odd. But we were facing some of these solar wind streams coming from these coronal holes. And as I stated in my live stream at the end of June, that, yeah, here we go. On the 4th of July, this is what we're going to be facing as far as the Earth goes. And bingo, 4th of July, there we go. Big earthquake. And now we have another one. And the Earth just passed through and was impacted by a swath of this solar wind. And bingo, we have another large earthquake. So if the people from the USGS don't have any experience in solar dynamics, I think they better get it soon or hire somebody that knows what they're doing. Because we have serious issues, folks. There's no doubt about it. I've been talking about it for years, and they've been trying to shut me up since 2016. And the censorship on social media is getting worse. And even in your search engines. Not going to mention any name, but you all know who I'm talking about. But anyways, let's get into some of this. I'm going to show you this video that I've put together. And you're going to see the inner dynamics of these coronal holes and what's going on inside of them. I just developed this technique. It's pretty cool. And it actually allows us to look down inside of those coronal holes and see the activity. So bear with me 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and let me get out of here, and I'll pull this up. Now I'm just going to stop this for 1 second. Hold on 1 second here. Anyways, this is the current view from the Solar Dynamics Observatory spacecraft that is between the Earth and the Sun. It's about 1 million miles away from the Earth, and it monitors the Sun in extreme ultraviolet wavelengths of light. That's why the Sun looks like it's purple. But this allows us to see these coronal holes and also the diminishing of the Sun's corona. I don't know if you guys have noticed over the last couple of years, if you've been watching my YouTube channel, the outer corona here has drastically shrunk since 2016, 17, 18, and here we are. It's pretty well depleted. That could be caused by this solar minimum that the Sun's been sinking into. But this coronal hole right here that's shaped like a triangle, I have set this video capture all the way back to July 1st through today. So everything that you're going to see is current. You're also going to see some different views, and I'm going to be showing you this new technique that I'm using in order to see the activity down inside of these dark regions, these coronal holes. Now, just to get up on the science, if you're new to all of this, whenever you see this, let's just say this cloudy area all the way around the Sun, the lighter color, that's kind of like the Sun's atmosphere. When the sun's atmosphere parts and a coronal hole is produced, like the one you see on your screen now, shaped like a triangle, right there. Whenever those openings open up, all of those heavily charged particles are now spewing right out of that coronal hole, facing the Earth at this position, and those particles are streaming very, very fast, 300, 400, 500, 600 kilometers per second, and they're making their journey 93 million miles from the sun to the Earth. And they do continue. Once they pass the Earth, they do continue to go on and on. So I'm going to go ahead and let this start playing, and you're going to see the sun from July 1st through July 6th. You can see here more coronal hole openings. I'm going to stop this. These were very active regions that we were watching right here. There was a very, very large filament there. It did not release. A plasma burst towards the Earth. Thank God for that. But you can see there's a very large coronal hole opening on the top of the sun. That wouldn't bother us at all. But you see it blends in, and this coronal hole started to form immediately. But just watch, and you will see that these coronal holes, the sun's atmosphere starts to deplete and open whenever it starts facing Earth. Now, this is the new technique that I've discovered. I've actually been working on this for about a week, trying to get it right. Now, you're going to see down inside of these coronal holes everywhere. Everywhere where you see a dark black surface on the sun, you're going to see all of these little sparkles flying around. We normally don't see that on the SDO. The website doesn't work that way. NASA doesn't provide it to us in that way. But this will give you, the viewers, a good idea of what is literally happening below the sun's outer atmosphere. Okay? And you're going to see down inside of there. Now, I'm going to go ahead and let this run, and you're going to see it in a couple of different views. And I'll let it go ahead and play while I take a sip of my Red Bull. Now, you won't see this. You won't see this on any other YouTube channel. One second. Now, this what I've developed here. Like I said, you're not going to see this on any other YouTube channel. Now, this is a development that, like I said, I've been working on this for a little while, and I've got it just right. So now we can see deep inside, underneath the atmosphere of the sun, and we can now see clearly where all of these coronal hole openings are. Everywhere. So on this view, anywhere where you see that it's white, that means the sun's atmosphere is gone. Okay, so it's going to replay. I have this in a loop for all of you to check it out again. And as these coronal hole openings open, all of those particles literally just stream straight out towards the Earth. Now, right where my cursor is, right about there, is where the Earth is positioned towards the sun. So we are just a little bit below the sun's equator. So as you can see, everywhere where you see those little sparkling white dots, that is what the sun is spewing out towards the earth. And also heavy amounts of solar radiation. There's been a lot of talk about the UVA, UVB, UVC, ultraviolet radiation coming from the sun. Folks, it's very intense. I can warn all of you till I'm blue in the face to try to stay out of the sun as much as possible. Even when it's a cloudy day, folks, all of this is still coming from the sun. Cloud cover is not going to block all of this. Now, chemtrailing, that's a different story. There's a very, very high possibility, as we've spoken about this before, the stratospheric aerosol injections, as they like to call it now. Maybe they are trying to block or deflect some of this away from the Earth. But you're not going to beat the sun. The sun is a very powerful star, and there's nothing that man's going to do to prevent this from happening. Maybe you can limit some of this, but you're not going to stop it. This is the problem that we face with a weakening magnetic field. Now, here's the other problem. As I mentioned in my last live stream, the Earth is battling the sun's magnetic field, and Planet X has a very strong magnetic field. So, in the beginning stages of a solar minimum, the Earth's magnetic field should not weaken that fast, but it has. Now we have another factor, and that factor is this object that is now orbiting our sun in a 28-day orbit. That's how long it takes for it to make one orbit around the sun. As we are traveling around that backside, as I was saying, through June, July, August, September, October, November, December, we are now coming in contact, closer contact, with this Planet X magnetic field. On top of that, we just made a pretty big discovery a few days ago that I spoke about, and that was the possibility of a very large interstellar cloud or molecular cloud around this object. It has been discovered, and I found the information dating back to 2011 in a scientific report and study, that astronomers and astrophysicists found out that these molecular or interstellar clouds have very, very strong magnetic fields of their own. So like I said in my other live stream, now the Earth is battling not one, not two, but three different magnetic fields. One from the sun, one from Planet X, and this molecular cloud that surrounds this object. It is a known fact that brown dwarfs do have the ability to be enveloped in this gaseous cloud. And I shared all that information with you guys in my last live stream. During that research with that group of scientists and astronomers back in 2011, one key word that they used in their report as they were viewing these molecular clouds around a young stellar core. That is the word, those are the words that they used. Stellar core. I haven't heard that terminology. I did hear it for the first time from Dr. Albers as she coined that phrase in describing what this object may possibly be. We don't know where it came from, folks, and don't take this the wrong way, but you could be really naive to think that nothing else can enter our solar system except a comet and a meteor or an asteroid. What? You don't think that another rogue planet or another star or any other type of large planetary object can enter our solar system? Our little tiny little solar system, in one spiraling arm in this galaxy, in this universe. Yeah. So, that's where we're at right now, and mainstream science just doesn't want to swallow that pill. The governments around the world, they don't want to tell you that this has occurred. They don't want to tell you that the solar system has a new buddy, the sun has a new mate. People would go crazy if they actually knew the truth. They think that the same thing with UFO and alien disclosure. They think that people will go absolutely apeshit. Fact of the matter is, the more and more of this information that comes out, the more and more people are going to wake up, and they're going to start asking questions. And the questions are going to be why? Why is all of this happening? They give you nonsense excuses like global warming and climate change. Yes, folks, things are changing. The climate is changing. But climate change just doesn't happen overnight. It takes long periods of time for climate change to occur. But what have all of you seen? You've seen drastic changes. And beginning in January of 2019, this year, you finally got to hear politicians flapping their gums about climate change. Soft disclosure. That's exactly what it is. Then that way they can say, oh, well, we told you all about it. We told you. And how ironic that they place this timeline of, we only have 12 years. We only have 12 years. Listen, folks, in just a year from now, mark my words, put this on the calendar, in a year from now, things are going to be starting to get to that point where they're going to be unrecognizable. There are high possibilities in the very near future. I'm talking months from now, maybe even a year or two from now. You're going to see land masses shifting. You may see land masses disappear. We may see parts of California slide into the ocean. Yeah, we can see a massive seismic event in Cascadia or the Juan de Fuca. Okay? It's happening all over the world. I just got a report 2 days ago that Alaska hit 90 degrees. Okay. That's getting out of hand. Anchorage, Alaska, 90 degrees. Glaciers are melting. The North Pole, all of the old ice is gone. North Pole melting. We have very, very severe problems occurring with our jet stream. That is another major factor with our weather. We also have big problems, brewing in our oceans, and it's killing a lot of marine life. You've been seeing this for years now, but it's actually getting worse. As the North Pole continues to melt and melt and melt, that's leaking all of that fresh water into our oceans, both in the Atlantic and the Pacific. That messes up the salinity of the oceans. that also contributes to disasters that we've seen in our jet stream. And it's very, very detrimental to marine life. So we are going to continue to see problems. Over the course of the last 2 months, we've seen this uptick in this flesh-eating disease. Everybody going to the beach. Countless cases, case after case after case after case. Flesh-eating bacteria. Where is it coming from? Hard to say, but it's killing people. And for the people out there that are not awakened yet, they will be splashing around in the oceans, on vacation, soaking up all of this radiation, and now they're getting eaten by this flesh-eating bacteria. And folks, it kills you. It kills you. If it's not captured immediately, you're a goner. Okay? We just had a lady here in the Pittsburgh area, an older lady. She contracted this flesh-eating bacteria. She fought it. Doctors tried to save her life. 2 days ago, she died. A child was just, diagnosed with it. They said that he should live, but it's very, very bad. Where it's coming from, I don't particularly know, but you never know what bacterias have been hidden in this ancient ice in the North Pole. Okay? We've seen this happen in Siberia a few years ago with anthrax and melting snow and temperatures changing. And it killed a bunch of people and animals in Siberia that came in contact with this warming trend. And, these people died. So there's a lot of crazy things going on out there in space and around the Earth and in our solar system. Fact of the matter is, the people that should be telling you the truth, the scientists with all the PhDs and the credentials, they're not going to tell you the truth. Because the truth goes against the whole mainstream science, and they don't want to lose their jobs. Like what happened to Dr. Albers. She went against the grain, and they saw to it that they ended her 17-year career as a professor at a top university. And she'll never be able to get that back. And that's what they will do to you. That's why you don't see astronomers and all these bigwig scientists telling you the truth, because they know that their career will be over. But I wanted to present this new view of the SDO so you guys can see for the first time deep inside and underneath the sun's atmosphere. And now you can really, really see, besides the extreme ultraviolet light that the SDO provides us in these models. I mean, it's actually not a model. You're actually looking at a real view of the sun, but in extreme ultraviolet wavelengths. This is 211 angstroms of extreme ultraviolet light. That's why it looks like this color purple. But now we're able to see all the way down inside of it with this technique, and it's working very well. All of those little dots that you see there, that's what's going on underneath that atmosphere of the sun. Once it opens up, all hell breaks loose, and that's all coming to the Earth. So I'm going to go ahead and jump out of here, and I'm going to show you what's been happening with our magnetopause, the Earth's shield that supposedly is supposed to protect us. Unfortunately, because of the output of the sun, our magnetic field is weakening. What does that do to the Earth? Well, that causes the Earth to kind of be opened up to being pelted with this solar wind, these heavily charged particles, and the interference coming from other magnetic fields. See, folks, there is no other excuse to the compressions that we've been seeing for the last several weeks with our magnetopause. There is no other excuse. And nobody else will talk about it. Why? Because they don't want to disrupt their meal ticket. They don't want to ruin their good name to their YouTube channel. They don't want to go down that road as being a conspiracy theorist. But we all know that each and every one of us, we're not a conspiracy theorist. We're a conspiracy realist. That's a fact. Let's jump out of here. I'm going to show you guys what's been cracking on the... let me get over here. I'm going to show you guys what's been cracking on these earthquakes real quick. Just wanted to go ahead and bring this up. The USGS, the website literally went down when that magnitude 6.2, 6.5 went off. Then it went down during the 7.1. Wow. How reliable is a government agency website? Man, they really need to get their shit together and maybe buy some more powerful servers or something, because people were relying on that information. Whether they shut it down, or I think it was just overloaded with people running to the website and, almost having it crash. As you can see right there on your screen, this is an update of all of the earthquakes that are in this area. Last night at around 11 p.m., they listed approximately 1,200 earthquakes occurring in this area. So this is going to continue, and there's a very, very high possibility that between today and, I would say within the next 72 hours or less, we may see another magnitude 6 or 7. There is an even higher possibility that we could see a higher 7. It all depends, folks. It all depends on how the Earth is going to react to what's happening to her. So I'm going to just pan back here a little bit, if the USGS site will even work. It's very, very slow. As you can see, it's already starting to freeze. Yeah, I'm actually going to get out of here, and we're going to take a look at some of the heliplots or the seismograms. And these seismograms usually update about every 30 minutes. I wanted to get to these seismograms quick before they did update. Let's blow this up just a little bit more. And you could see all of the activity that's going on with the Earth right now. This seismic activity is literally ringing through the Earth from one side all the way to the other. There are probably not any seismograms or seismic devices planted in the Earth and the oceans that are not picking up this activity. They're all going off everywhere. As you can see here, the Aleutian Islands, that's all the way up there in Alaska. You can see the seismic activity. Something very, very strange that I saw on this seismogram right here is you see this big disturbance right here. But look right there. See that right there? Those are, I believe these are the S waves. That might be the P waves moving in, and just look at that. That was an occurrence right there, and you can see it's steady all the way through. So I'm not going to blow these up anymore, but I wanted to show you that right there. Here's Missouri. I mean, you wouldn't think that seismograms in Missouri would be picking this up, but it just goes to show you the power and the energy that is ringing through the earth right now. So, you know, the earth is made up of a bunch of tectonic plates and fissures and cracks and faults. So all of this pressure, this is what's going to happen. Now, we may start to see earthquakes in other areas here in the United States that we don't normally see. We may see some activity starting to brew in the midsection of the United States and moving over near the Mississippi and possibly even some smaller quakes on the East Coast. Southern states. We've seen Tennessee, North Carolina. The New Madrid Fault can light up in a split second. We've seen some weird quakes over the last 2 months. But here's Oregon. I mean, these seismograms from beginning to end, they're going to be black. Just completely black. Here's Florida. I mean, you wouldn't think that, yeah, that would be black because of the internal pressure and the earthquake activity on the West Coast. Yeah, look at it. Here's Texas, Massachusetts, and these are very, very strong waves rippling through the earth right now, folks. I mean, besides the whole seismogram being completely black, that is a lot of activity blaring through the earth. As this pressure travels and increases, there are many, many weak points throughout the tectonic plates and the faults. At this point in time, nobody has a crystal ball. It's all left up to the earth and what's happening to the earth in real time. That will show in the form of an earthquake or a bigger event. We may possibly see one. So as you can see, I'm not going to go through all of these, but I mean, you can see they are all pretty well disturbed. Here's Ohio, Minnesota, more from Texas and Idaho. I mean, it's going to go on and on and on and on. New York, you know, any seismic devices planted in the ground all across the United States and actually all across the world. We could look at the international seismograms. They're going to look the same. The same as what you're seeing here on your screen right now. And it's going to stay like that for a while until this event stops. But here's the thing, folks. It's not going to stop anytime soon. It may actually get a lot worse. Yeah, it may just get a lot worse. Let me show you something here. I'm going to bring you over to the Australian model for the magnetopause. Okay? I want you to watch this very, very carefully. This is right now. Actually, oh my, they haven't updated this. Or have they? You see these compressions? We're going to go back on the date. This will be July 5th. I'm actually going to go back to July 1st. We'll go to July 2nd. you can see these fluctuations and this compression of the Earth's bow shock or bow shock. You're looking at this from a side view. These are satellites moving around the Earth. Or excuse me, you're looking at a top view, I'm sorry. So the Earth's bow shock should, be right there where that number 15 is. That should be about the normal positioning of it. But you can see day after day, these compressions are just wild. We've seen all kinds of compressions, all kinds of contortions, and this is all due to Earth reacting to another magnetic field, not solar wind. Why do I say that? Is because at these points in time, there was no solar wind. There was no heavy flow of intense, heavily charged particles coming from the sun. This was all an interaction of the Earth interacting with another magnetic field. This is the 4th of July. Just take a look at this. The magnetopause actually expanded out past our view on this model. And then it started to contract. And there was a lot of pressure buildup. And as you can see on your screen right now, it is being compressed very, very severely. And this is actually going to continue. And over the course of the next week, it's actually going to get worse. And I'm going to show you. Let's move into the 5th. And this will play out. And you'll see more and more of these compressions of the magnetopause, very, very violent compressions. Once again, look at that. The bow shock of the magnetopause literally went off the screen. That's crazy. In all my years of this research and studying space and the Earth and the sun, I've seen some weird things happen with semi-reversals of the magnetopause, and I've seen my gambit of weird occurrences, but this is very, very abnormal. This is a major, major problem. And the other issue is this major, major problem, it's not going anywhere. It's actually going to intensify. It's actually going to get worse. So, that leads into having emergency plans for you and your family, knowing your surroundings. There is a lot to learn. I do my best to help educate all of you. I don't sit back like other YouTube channels and sensationalize all of this like it's the end of the world. Yes, anything could happen at any point in time. But I don't try to sensationalize this. That's not my job. My job that I feel is to help each and every one of you truly understand what is happening. That's why we are in the truth community. That's why we are hardcore truthers. We want the truth. And, unfortunately, it's beginning to be quite difficult to get at that truth. Yeah, no doubt about it. But anyways, you guys see the compressions. You saw what was happening on the sun. You see the effects that it's having on the Earth. And that's not gonna stop anytime soon. And I'm gonna go ahead and show you. We're gonna jump out of this model. And we're going to jump over here to NOAA, and we're going to pull up the solar wind predictive model. And we'll pull this bad boy up. And I've expanded the screen a little bit so you guys can see this. And again, this is going to stretch out from today all the way to the 11th. Now, I'm going to stop this and I'm going to use the slide slowly so you can see what's happening. Right up here, if you just follow my cursor, right up here you have the plasma density measurement and you have the radial velocity down here. This is the density of the plasma coming in, and this is the radial velocity or the speed. We're not too worried about the speed because the speed has been diminished for probably the last 6-7 months. But as you can see, here's the Earth right here, that little green dot. The little yellow dot, that is the sun. You're looking at it from a top view, and this is a model, and all of this data comes from the ACE satellite that absorbs all of this information on its detectors, translates it into a model. So right here you see the Earth, and this is going back to the 4th of July. Here you go. There's the Earth. That's the 4th of July that you're looking at on your screen right now. That was the first big earthquake, the 6.2, 6.5. Boom! It hit the Earth. Well, it's just about ready to hit the Earth. And there you go. On the 5th, you can see the 5th, the Earth is right inside of it. Now, here's the thing, folks. That really wasn't that bad of a solar wind. It was relatively moderate, very slow in speed, but it still affected the Earth in a very extreme way because of everything that's happening. The impacts of solar wind, heavily charged particles, and the Earth's interaction with other magnetic fields. So that is the reason why we are seeing what we're seeing. Doesn't have anything to do with fracking wells and drilling into the Earth. The Earth is literally under siege right now, and it will stay this way for at least the next 5 months, possibly the next 6 months. I broke my crystal ball, got to order a new one from Amazon. I don't know when it's going to come in, but for now, we got to go on intelligence. So here we are at the 5th. Let's move into the 6th. You can see the Earth is passing through this impact. And then here we go. We're right between two batches of this so-called solar wind. So we are at the 7th right now. And there you go. The Earth is about to get smacked again. And, well, it actually should be. So midday, and this is at UTC time, so midday between the 7th and the 8th, the Earth is going to absorb that solar wind coming from the sun. Everything that I just showed you in that video from the SDO and showing you those coronal openings. So there you go. Here we are halfway between the 7th and the 8th. We're going to move forward to the 9th, 10th, 11th. Now, between the 9th, 10th, and 11th, it looks like we're out of the woods, right? Not really. Because it does take a little bit of time for these heavily charged particles to sink and absorb into the mantle and into the core of the Earth. It can take up to 3 days, and then bingo, you see a rash of earthquakes or larger earthquakes. So let's just say today is the 7th. Is today the 6th or the 7th? What is today? Today's the 6th. I don't know why I kept saying the 7th. So today is the 6th, And I would probably say, let's back the truck up a little bit here. So we're right here. So we're right in the middle of this stream. So we saw that bigger earthquake, that's 7.1, 10:30 Eastern Time out in California. You can see right there on your screen that the earth was being impacted right at that time. So as we move forward between the 6th and the 7th, we're just coming out of that stream. But there's another one right behind it. And here we go. On the 8th, well, actually between the 7th and the 8th, that stream is actually heavier and more intense. You see up here, you see the green wave up here? That's measuring that plasma density. You can see the wave on the 8th, right at the apex of that arch. That's going to be a pretty big impact. So between today and probably the 8th, 9th, 10th, possibly even the 11th, all of that activity that you see brewing in California will probably intensify. There may be 1, 2, or 3 bigger earthquakes, and there is a high possibility that we may see earthquakes in California, up near San Francisco, the Sunnyvale area, Northridge, more earthquakes right off the coast of Oregon, near the Juan de Fuca Fault, and God forbid, anything up there in the Cascadia area. Alaska has already seen a barrage of earthquakes over the last couple of months. We may see that intensify. We will probably also see intense earthquake or seismic activity pick up along the southern region of the Ring of Fire. And that would put earthquakes down around New Zealand, Indonesia, all around that area. Hell, the way things are going right now, we may see a couple of freak occurrences of earthquakes in Australia again. There's a very, very high possibility out there in the Indian Ocean. We may see more. Listen, here's the bottom line, folks. The whole earth is going to get lit up because of all of this, and it's not going to stop. It's going to continue. So we need to report on this. All of you guys, you're like little eye reporters out there. You keep watching, you keep learning, and I'd like all of you to join our Planet X News Facebook group. The link's in the description box. Click on it, join, I'll approve you. Okay? You're free to share just about whatever you want to share. Don't share any trolling videos. Don't share any videos from Alex Lujan or Steve Olson over at WSO, because I will delete the information. These two people are complete crackpots, and they have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. Period. If you don't like what I'm saying, sorry, but it's a fact. We need to get into hardcore science, hardcore information. We don't need sensationalized nonsense. That's just the bottom line. So you can see what we're going to be faced with here over the next couple of days. And it's actually a very, very serious situation. If any of these earthquakes all of a sudden start to hit in areas near San Diego and Los Angeles and other heavily populated areas, this little bit of destruction that you see going on just east of LA, yeah, you're going to see serious damage, massive fires from gas lines rupturing. You're going to see power outages everywhere. And that's another thing, folks. I know a lot of you have been asking, what's been going on? What's been going on with the internet and cell phone and GPS? Look, I've been having my own issues here where I live in the Pittsburgh area, we've had numerous internet outages, cell phone problems, GPS problems. All of this is happening, but why does that happen? Folks, that only happens when those satellites up there that are orbiting around the Earth are getting pelted with all of these heavily charged particles and the other outer influences from very strong magnetic fields. Okay, sometimes the satellites will be placed in safe mode so they're not damaged. The electronics, they'll be turned back on. Facebook had a big issue a couple of days ago. What was it? 2 days ago. You couldn't upload an image. That was mainly around my area and some spots on the northeastern part of the United States. They supposedly fixed it. Who knows? But these issues are going to continue. We're also going to continue to see very, very severe bouts of lightning. Just a few days ago, a bunch of people were killed and injured in North Carolina. I mean, this is the world that we are now living in. And, you know, as I sat here yesterday thinking back in 2016 and 2017, all of the names that people called me, all of the disruptions that people tried to produce in my life because they didn't want this information getting out, or they called you a liar or a moron, like the words I use when I refer to these troll babies. They try to disrupt everything. They try to disrupt that flow of information. They try to disrupt that learning process for each and every one of you. You know, that should really piss you off, because you never know when a tidbit of this information is going to save your life, your children's lives, your family's lives. So each and every one of you now should take all of this very personally. Very personally. I'll be a little extreme with you. Just think how you would feel burying your child, burying your husband, your wife, your brother, your sister, a best friend. It's happening. It's happening to families all over the world. But just because it's not knocking on your back door yet doesn't mean it's not coming, no matter where you live. I see a lot of you asking about safe zones. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be truthful with you. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your ass. I'm not going to sugarcoat shit and call it candy. There are no safe zones. There are no safe zones on this planet. I don't care where you go. You will be subject to something. Period. The more you know, the better off you're going to be. Remember my saying, knowledge is power. And if somebody is limiting your knowledge, they are taking that power away from you. So therefore, you need to take that personally. And the fight and the battle and the war begins. We are under very, very serious situations. There's a lot going on. Way too much for me to squeeze in an hour and a half to 2 hour live stream. I do have some new UFO information that I was taking in yesterday. The UFO video that I recorded 2 weeks ago has caught the eye of some very high-level UFO investigators. Actually, people that are on TV, the Science Channel, the History Channel. I've been going back and forth in a few emails as they're examining what I've caught, and I'm going to be sending them some additional info. Maybe later on today, I'll do another live stream and I'll share this UFO information with you, because it's pretty wild. But listen, folks, join our Facebook group, Planet X News Facebook group. The link's in the description box. Okay? Like I said, mind your manners when you're in there. Don't insult people. And share relative information. And I'll try to help each and every one of you out on a little bit of a learning curve, like I was doing yesterday, showing some people the ways to distinguish lens flares in your pictures and showing you that they're not planets, they're just artifacts from your digital cameras. Not insulting people, but teaching. It's all a learning lesson. You know, fortunately for me, I've been at this for 20 years, so I know a lot. For people that are just coming into this, well, they still have a lot to learn. But we can help each other by sharing this information across social media as much as possible. All of the links to our website, to the Planet X News online store for any of you that are interested in the shirts and the chemtrail shirts. All of the links are in the description box. People are asking about our books. Everything is right there in that description box. Join our Facebook group. Get your butts over there and be part of our team, because the more people we have out there in our network, the better off we are going to be. For all of you that want to join our private network, that link is also in the description box. That is also very, very important, folks, because once again, there is a huge, huge battle against the truth on social media. Sooner or later, they are going to start turning that switch off on all of your informational sources on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. That's actually going to start sooner than you think. And there's going to come a day where you're going to be looking for these YouTube channels or me, and we're not going to be there. So that's why I developed that private network, so they can't take that away from me. If they turn the internet off, well, that's a different story. But with what YouTube and Facebook are doing with their censorship, it's horrible, and those people should be ashamed of themselves. Period. They should be using their power with technology to help instead of hinder. But that's not the world that we live in, is it? Anyways, folks, be very, very vigilant. Watch what is happening. If you live in any of these earthquake zones, watch very carefully. Have a plan. Know what you're doing. Get your family involved. Make sure your children know what to do. Make sure you have some supplies, flashlight, a medical kit, full tank of gas in your car, cash on hand, flashlight, things of that nature, okay? Just to be a little prepared and be safe. And I'm going to go ahead and cut off this live stream right now. I've got a lot of work to do, and I'm going to be updating a lot of things on the Facebook group. And I also share it across the board on my public figure page, my personal page, and the Planet X News organizational page. We share it all across the whole network. So that's where you guys come in. So join us on our Facebook group after the live stream, and I will approve all of your memberships. Just like I said, be kind to everybody. Mind your manners. Don't call anybody any names. And we'll be good to go. And I'll help all you guys out. And I share a lot of information, practically 16, 18 hours a day. The information's flowing, short videos. It's all right there at your fingertips. So, folks, again, watch what's happening out there. If you guys see information and news, share it with Planet X News. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm out of here. It was great being with you. Thanks for the super chats and the donations. I really appreciate it. Be safe out there. Scott from Planet X News. Take care, folks.